happening nowadays. So I'm going to see if this works here. I'm getting the thumbs up.
We see it great. Yeah.
Up into it. Wonderful. So the Movement Fund, what are we talking about? Eric, come on. This is a way to increase our impact without having to start anything new. And I'm going to move fast, but I'm going to get into the details. And I would really appreciate Jason or anyone if you just jump right in and let me know when I've got less than 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, in case I'm just off in the cloud somewhere. I'd appreciate it.
Will do.
So with the Movement Fund, before I get into what the Movement Fund is, I want to talk to you about our friend Sonia here. Sonia is the mother of 3 kids. She works 2 jobs. She would normally be someone who we would consider surviving some of the circumstances that a lot of our nonprofits hope to solve. She might be income challenged, might be suffering from eviction prevention, or maybe a mental wellness challenge. Whatever her case, Sonia is not unlike so many of the people that we want to serve in this community and, of course, across the nation. Also, what's beautiful about Sonia is that she just loves her community so much. She wants to support the people who are surviving her circumstance as well. So she'll help people find resources for eviction prevention. She'll help people find resources to get their taxes done, to get transportation to work, to get food. She loves making plates for people. But Sonia is not organized as an organization. She's just Sonia. She's just someone who cares about the community and is surviving a circumstance by herself. And Sonia is not unlike so many different grassroots change agents and passionate folks who are close to those who are in need and also surviving themselves. Her issue is having an access and availability of resources. And we experienced this in our early work with the Young Gifted and Black Coalition, where, as you see here in this image, we're looking at hundreds of people. In some of our earlier protests, we mobilized in the course of maybe 5 to 7 months, thousands and thousands of people marching into the city county building, marching throughout the streets, demanding justice for Tony Robinson, demanding the end to a new jail, and focusing those resources on community-led initiatives, particularly by people of color. So much community building, so much analysis building, where we're having these teach-ins, these sessions, and it was beautiful. But when it came time to make a donation, sadly, so many organizations had their hands tied because we were doing things that were quite, there's my cute kid in the background. But we were doing things that were quote unquote illegal. We're having protests. We're holding police officers accountable, and some of the organizations were funded by the police. They could not write a check to support that kind of work without upsetting the people who kept their lights on. And in other instances, we received offers to pay for protests, to pay for our staffing, to pay for our materials, but it came with these disclaimers and these caveats. And it was like, yeah, well, we'd love to write you a check, but we need you to stay out of the mall, or we need you to not hold this particular person accountable, and all of these things that would compromise our integrity as an organization that was passionate about the community and cared and was living up to who we truly were. So the issue of access was not just because we weren't organized as a traditional nonprofit or had a traditional organization, but also, we just were not palatable to the people who typically held the resources, especially in a state like Wisconsin, where median income is about half for people of color in comparison to our white counterparts. So typically speaking, usually the people who had the resources to cover the expenses that we incurred on our journey to provide for ourselves and to create our own solutions, they typically did not have the same lived experiences. And because of that, there was a natural disconnect between what they thought solutions were and what we thought solutions were. And if someone's paying for something, they tend to feel like they have a say. So what this showed us very early on was that we needed to be in control of our own resources, and we needed a way to make resources more available to organizations like ours that were experiencing the same exact thing across the whole nation. It was almost magical and quite weird, if I can put it in just the way that I experienced it, when I learned about all of these different organizations very similar to YGB across the nation. We never spoke to them, having similar demands and similar challenges. So needless to say, we had to do something about that. That's the issue of access. Also, there's an issue of availability. Here we're looking at, you know, a normal mom and pop shop, and this is an older picture, so we could Photoshop the masks in, but, you know, use your imagination. Maybe one day we'll get back here, but for now, we had friends with small organizations, small businesses, who even before COVID-19 did not have a budget to support movement work, whether that's environmental justice, social justice, gender justice, you name it. They did not have the funds to support it, but they did have 100 customers a day. Our friend Joe Gaglio at Gotham Bagels, this was him. He doesn't have a fund to support social good work. He's keeping his lights on, especially nowadays. But he did have 100 customers a day. And so what these organizations can do is partner with the Movement Fund to create a new stream of income that also benefits the community. And we'll get into the logistics of that in a second. But before we do that, I want to talk about the traditional way that we view social good work. And usually when we think of people changing the world, saving the world, making the world a better place, what kind of organization is that typically? I'm gonna ask you, Mark, or anybody. What kind of organization is that usually when we think of social good happening?
Usually nonprofit.
Right on, right on. It's usually nonprofit, completely unscripted, folks. But yeah, usually nonprofit. There's zero profit being made. And as a result, those nonprofits have to go and beg for profits for pennies on the dollar, a small percentage of their for-profit revenues in order to continue to function. And it's also no secret that the type of capitalism that we foster in our society today plays a big role in much of the oppression that we see, much of the inequalities that we see. And there's no question that large companies like Walmart and Coca-Cola, and Nabisco, you name it, play a role in pollution and environmental injustice. So we're going to these large corporations who are focused on for-profits, and we're saying, hey, the problems that you're causing or that you're playing a role in or that you're benefiting from, we'd like to play a role in the solution. So can we get a little bit of your profits to do that? Meanwhile, you have people who are investing millions and billions of dollars literally every year to build more of these types of companies. And they do that because they know that they're going to get a return on their investment. It's natural. When you want to see your money grow, you put it into something that is profitable. Unfortunately, we don't see the same kind of input in social good work. Why? Because as our esteemed host here says, Mark says it's not profitable. It is too often not for profit. And so we have to, if we're going to see the same type of investment, the same type of time, the same type of energy that goes into for-profit initiatives, if we're going to see that same energy go into nonprofit initiatives or initiatives that are solely about social good and not just your big box social good where it's like very clearly, you know, cancer, breast cancer awareness, and, you know, you name it. But the grassroots movements that we people love to give us hugs and high fives and great, thanks for being out here. We really needed you. And thanks for steering this energy in a positive way. But they're not investing in it. They're investing in Apple and Walmart and Twitter and Pandora. And the S&P 500 and foreign currency and sometimes Bitcoin, you name it. Those things are profitable. So we have to shift the paradigm. We have to make it okay for us to benefit and generate real profits from social good. In a city like Madison, in a state like Wisconsin, where we are, I'm going to say it, pseudo-liberal, and many ways very conservative. And I don't think many people would argue with me on this. It's hard to swallow the idea. It doesn't feel good when people are making money and generating an income and a livelihood, and not just keeping their lights on and able to to fill their refrigerator, but driving nice cars. And can you imagine someone leading a nonprofit and they're like pulling up in a Benz, or flying in a private jet? It doesn't feel good. But when we see Zuckerberg, and when we see name whatever company that we know is exploiting child labor, that we know is polluting the environment, that we know has employees, 70% of their employees, Walmart, can't buy food, can't afford their own food. We expect them to be getting off of a private jet. We expect them to be driving nice cars. We expect them to have all of the money in the world. We don't argue with that, because we've been conditioned to be okay with for-profit making profits by any means necessary. And when it comes to changing the world, that has to be out of the goodness of your heart. We have a lopsided investment in what we want to. We want to see social good happen. We want to see as much of that happen as possible, but we don't want to make it profitable. And that doesn't work for the society that we've created and that we support. Is that making sense to folks? How those investments are different? I'm seeing head nods and thumbs up. Okay, I appreciate it. So what is shifting the paradigm? Welcome to the Movement Fund. Movement. We are using referral marketing to reward partners who help us raise funds that then goes to support grassroots social good. Emphasis on the grassroots social good. And this is how it works. You have somebody who becomes aware of the Movement Fund, whether it is through social media, they see an advertisement somewhere, or they get an email from Jason saying, what's up with the Movement Fund? And they're like, I really like this. I support the idea of supporting grassroots social good. I want to support the Movement Fund. A lot of people have already done this. They commit $50 a month. And the Movement Fund says, thank you, in email. And by the way that we're raising this money is through individuals like you. We don't want to go to big corporations and then be beholden to their viewpoint of how we approach liberation for ourselves. We don't want to be beholden to some kind of stipulation or requirement that takes us further away from the methods that grassroots social change agents have been using and are using, and that tend to get in the way of those kind of big corporation relationships. So to do that, we need a bunch of small donations from a whole bunch of people like you. And to help you do that, we're rewarding you for sharing your link, for sharing the opportunity for people to donate. So if you go to themovementfund.com and you click join at the top, you can get a special link, and then we'll know when you share to social media. A lot of us have seen the GoFundMes. You donate it because you're passionate about it, or you know the person, or it's your mom or somebody close to you and you don't want to get on their bad list. So you give $5 and then you share it because, they're watching your feed and they see you sharing all kind of other things. They see you sharing a whole bunch of other things. So why not share their fundraiser, right? So you share their fundraiser and then nothing happens from that. And it goes, people donate, but you don't know how much your sharing has impacted, and neither do they. Further, a lot of people who donate, myself included, especially back in the day, things are luckily different for me now when it comes to business, but it wasn't too long ago that my $5, that was probably close to my last $5. And as I'm sharing, I'm also sharing opportunities for people to donate to our own initiatives. So it would have been really great if I could have seen some kind of benefit from that, alongside GoFundMe, who, bless their hearts, are donation based. So With Movement Fund, you go to get to the website, you get your special link, that link is tracked. And what happens is that when somebody sees your link on your feed and they decide that they like the idea of supporting the Sonias of the world, supporting the YGBs of the world, grassroots social change agents, they donate, and then Movement Fund says thank you to you, and to the tune of a small percentage of the donation that has come through. So what this means for Sonia is that Sonia can turn her social justice, her social good passion into something that could actually pay her bills. What this means for Gotham Bagels is that Gotham Bagels can provide a relevant product to the social justice climate and the pandemic climate that we're all surviving right now. If you see a jewelry luxury car salesman, especially when things first kicked off, it was hard for me. I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but it was really hard for me to stomach anything that was not talking about COVID relief, the pandemic, some kind of news, keeping us safe, or social justice. If I saw something that was like, hey, we know it's crazy outside, but look at this shiny thing. Don't you want to buy it? It was like, I kind of don't. Like and business owners, and I know this from the coaching that we give to a lot of business owners through one of my other organizations, folks felt like they couldn't really market like that. Like they couldn't start something new because we're in survival mode. What purpose is it? Here, Movement Fund is able to enter that conversation that we're all having, which is, how do we deal with the social justice challenges that we're having? How do we deal with immediate relief funds? And Movement Fund is, the whole purpose is to create the pool to get that money out. And we'll talk about that in a second, of how that money is used. But what it does for the small businesses that are struggling right now is it gives them another income stream that helps them remain relevant and useful to people who cannot come into their facility, or who can't come into their facility as much as they might want to. And it also gives our friend Joe Gagley over there on Mifflin Street an opportunity to support the movement when he does not have a fund. So this is, there are a couple of levels to this thing. So we want to empower influencers to be able to do the same thing. It's only a few levels deep. This isn't like a build your own business type of, make this your only way to survive. But network marketing companies generate a lot of revenue selling vacations and health products and things that we might buy at department stores. Here, our product, so to speak, is social good, grassroots social good. The very thing that everyone during our YGB peak told us they really wanted to support. But those donation dollars just went to Walmart and Starbucks and Pandora and Netflix. I got a Netflix membership. I'm not knocking it, but here we have a way to bridge those gaps, bring the smiles under one umbrella. So what is the money being used for, Eric? You're raising money in this new conventional way. How is it being used? We're focusing on 3 key areas. This has been our focus for the past 3 years. The referral marketing aspect is a new addition to how we're raising money, but we've been granting funds to meeting needs, which is this first area here, building awareness, and advocacy and action. Meeting needs is your eviction prevention. It is your transportation. It is food. Sonia could apply to Movement Fund right now to get a small grant to buy her own food for that week or that month, or she can get a grant or apply for a grant to create a program that helps people get food or helps people pay their rents, focusing on those that are not traditionally organized. Also, building awareness, the same thing. These are our freedom schools. These are our awareness building campaigns. These could be your marches. But my favorite is the advocacy and action. A lot of people who run nonprofits will understand this when I say that deep advocacy is far from the nonprofit world, especially if you're talking about grants. You'd be hard pressed to find grants that really focus on specific advocacy. Lobbying is not allowed. You read that in the fine print when you're setting up your nonprofit. But further than that, it's almost impossible. I'd say it's damn near impossible to find any organization that is writing grants specifically to pay for protests. Name the foundation that is saying, hey, please come to us so that we can help you block our employees from coming into work, or block traffic, or stop the belt line, or do a sit-in or a die-in, or what have you. And it's kind of peculiar to me that some of these same organizations complain when protests go awry and there are no support staff that are paid to be there. But we call the paid professionals, so to speak, with badges and guns to come in and quell the energy. And I've been blessed to coach some of the police captains here during some of these times. And I got to tell you, it is an intense job. They're getting paid to be there. The dedicated volunteers and protesters are not. But what if they were? What if the protests that we led during the day could extend into the night and steer that energy in a positive way? People got to eat. People got to pay their rents. People got to keep their lights on. Advocacy should be paid for. And there are few, if any, organizations that are supporting direct actions, the same direct actions that I know many of you have marched in. So Movement Fund is positioned and structured in a way that allows us to support these types of actions, in addition to the policy advocacy and this going to the school board meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So 3 areas: meeting needs, building awareness, and advocacy and action. And an example of that can be seen in our Movement Fund partner, Madison Alliance for Black Economic Empowerment. Yes, son. Yes, you may. It's my cute kid again. Being so polite. Oh, I love it. So Mobby supported over 300 Black entrepreneurs. Some of them received grants that were low barrier grants. So by low barrier, that means that they didn't have many hoops to jump through. That's the short version of it. But in this particular instance, Aerostar Photography, Shalisha Johnson was just able to show up and, participate in the process. And as a result of her participation, she left with an award for, I believe, about $2,500 that allowed her to get the equipment that she needed to keep her photography business open. She was struggling to render photos and keep things going. So she needed a new laptop and she needed new equipment. Movement Fund was able to help her get that without having to have her, meet some large qualification, have some business plan, the same thing with Ibrahim at IH Concepts. He needed a G7 certification. Hang on one second. Sorry, can you turn that down, please? Yeah. Ibrahim needed a G7 certification. I still don't know what G7 certified means, but it was really important. And because of that, he was able to get his business to a place where he could receive a higher level of clientele. I think his grant was about $500. It was really small, but it was, again, low barrier. He needed it, and we were able to act quickly. The same thing with the Young Gifted and Black Coalition. We were able to support well over 74 actions now, helping to raise awareness around social justice issues. With our eviction prevention work, this presentation is old, but I want to say close to 113 kids now, over roughly 36 families, and keeping a roof over their heads with our eviction prevention work, 96 sessions to build collective analysis, well over that. Again, I got to update this, y'all. But the point is that we were able to be a resource to ourselves and also to individuals who needed funds right away. My boy's really enjoying his time there. But they needed funds right away. They needed resources right away. So Movement Fund is poised to do that. Shalisha Johnson, just a couple of testimonials. She didn't know how she was going to be able to move her business forward, and Movement Fund's grant to her was able to help her do that. A single Black mother who was facing eviction saw this as a gift from God, literally, in tears, because she did not know how those funds were going to come to her. And it did not take this super long process from when the funds become available to when they actually get to the person who needs them. And she was able to get what she needed right away. The way that the process works is that as money comes available and applications come in, there's no competition. That was actually one of the other major challenges, is that in the nonprofit world, when it comes to social good, hey, Messiah, Daddy's on a call right now, and can you hear me, son? Daddy's on a call right now, and I need you to be quiet, okay? Can you turn that down and use your inside voice? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to take it, and I don't wanna do that, okay? All right. So, where was I? Oh, okay, yes. The nonprofit world competes with itself, y'all. Like, it's painful to see. We're blessed to be seeing more collaboration, especially and through organizations like DMI, but my goodness, it's almost like our funders and our donors, we keep them really close to the chest. And Madison specifically has the highest rate of nonprofits per capita in this state. And we also boast some of the nation's worst racial disparities. There is a big incongruence there. And in areas where we should be collaborating, we're competing with each other. And when it comes to the funding world, whether or not we like it, the way that these funding opportunities are structured is competitive, where, you know, it's a zero-sum game. You know, it's and a lot of donors, especially if you're in the sponsoring world, you might suffer from what we call donor fatigue, where, Messiah, son, I'm trying to work with you, okay? I'm on a call, and I need you to be quiet, okay? Okay. All right. I'm getting phone calls. We're gonna get through this, y'all. We are gonna make it. We gonna make it. Yeah. So
you're doing great. You're doing great.
I appreciate it. So yes, the Movement Fund's funding process is not competitive. It is based on funds availability. Anyone who meets the criteria, which is identified in the application process, if funds are there at the time that they make this request, they go right out the door very quickly. There's no ranking process. There's no, let's figure this out. There's no, I don't like this organization, so I'm going to vote against them. There's no, where's your W-9? Where's your 501c3? Who's your board? Who are your other funders? This is just totally grassroots. We need to get money into the hands of the Sonias of the world. Oddly enough, a lot of major nonprofits rely on Sonias. They rely on the YGBs. They rely on the grassroots folks who are the people who are closest to those who are needing the services that we want to see happen in the world. So wouldn't it make more sense for us to just talk directly to those people, talk directly to the people who need the resources, talk directly to the people who are doing the real work, and that way spend less money but have more impact? And we're doing it in a way that also generates an income for people to create more availability of resources, so that organizations like Gotham Bagels and Sonias of the world can benefit from this and get in the game. The last thing I'll say about this getting in the game, and this is kind of an unpopular opinion, but I've been known for those, and you know, I'm blessed to be at peace with my unpopular opinions. So there is no question that the world has many needs. There's also no question that the world has many people who could do something about those needs, but they don't do it. And part of the reason why they don't do it is because it's just not on their priority list. Their priority is making sure they have more resources that give them the option to make said impact. And a good example is in the venture capital organizations, these funds. You know, these billionaire investors they could write a check and, you know, fund organizations to do so many great things in the world. It would be great. It'd be beautiful. They don't do that because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their investors to turn a profit. That is what they are focused on. It's almost moral. If you talk to some of these fund managers, it's like, yeah, it's like a moral badge of honor to be focused with integrity on delivering for their investors. So one of the challenges with that is that social good, of course, doesn't create a profit. But if we could create a scenario where we're turning a profit and we could become a viable investment opportunity for some of these folks who just are not even in the game, they're not focused on this at all, then we could, hang on, folks, I have to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I have to do it. Son, I'm going to have to take that tablet. You're being too loud, and I'm on a phone call. Okay? So the next time, I'm going to give you one last chance because I don't want to take it from you, but we're going to have to turn this down. Okay, yeah, turn it down. All the way. All the way. Good. And I need you to be quiet, son, okay? The next time I'm taking it, all right? All right.
I knew I gave that kid too much credit to start with.
Right. If there's a scoreboard, you know, I don't know how we're doing on the.
I said cute kid, not quiet kid.
All right. I love them. I love them. I love.
Of course
them.
you
Reading
do.
parenting books does something to your parenting style. I tell you. So, anyways, I appreciate it. So, Movement Fund hopes to get people in the game who aren't in the game, y'all. There are so many for-profit focused individuals and businesses that are just sitting on the sidelines because they are focused with the utmost nobility on providing for their family and providing for their investors. Here we have an opportunity. If this gets to where we hope it will get to, we can compete with some of these billion-dollar network marketing companies. We can compete with some of these multi-billion-dollar conglomerate lobby groups that advocate for policies that make our world worse. Alec and them. I don't know if you've seen the documentary 13th, but it's atrocious. And the conglomerate that they talk about, the lobbying group that they talk about, is just one of many that are out there putting the pedal to the metal. They have money for advocacy dollars. They have money for lobbying. We do not when it comes to social good. So this hopes to change that, but let me bring it back down to the individual. I want you to remember some numbers, and I'm going to wrap this up. We have 11, 15, and 5. So our plan, and I want to say we're moving quite along on this, but our goal is to partner with 11 businesses that see about 100 customers or so per day. And of those, they can get 15 of those to say yes to an average of $5 a month. So 11 partners asking 100 folks a day, 15 of them say yes to $5 a month for the Movement Fund. $5, it's a cup of coffee, you know, a couple of cups of coffee. It's a Netflix membership. And Messiah, you working on it, son. So with that kind of math, with that kind of consistency, after 6 months, it's not a lot, but after 6 months of this kind of consistency, each of those 11 partners are bringing in between $1,000 and $2,000 a month from their revenue share from the donations that they get for the Movement Fund. Now, 6-7 months ago, this was like, you know, this was chump change to a business like Gotham Bagels, even though they're a small business. But now, this is keeping the doors open. After the same amount of time, after 6 months, Movement Fund would be bringing in close to $100,000 a month just from the donations just from these $5 a month donations on average. Maybe some people give more, some people give less, but this is a lot to be able to make low barrier grants in the community. When you see $100,000 funding opportunity happen, I think one of the city grants that we got to support youth emerging successfully, whole nother thing, but I think that whole funding pool was like maybe $200,000, and they had, 30 something organizations apply. It was a 2-3 month process. Many people walked away with sad faces. Here, we could fund at this rate over 50 Sonias in 1 month, and then be ready to do the same thing the next month. With that kind of consistency and that kind of impact, the ripple effects in the community would be astronomical, especially here in Madison. After 12 months of the same kind of consistency, these small businesses are bringing in between $3,000 and $4,000 a month. Every organization that I give this presentation to, especially the small businesses, they're like, listen, we need that right now. How do we get started? Because we want to make an impact, but we can't. Our hands are literally tied and cuffed to our pocketbooks. And we don't know how we're going to keep the lights on, let alone play a role in relief funds to people who are surviving COVID-19, or resources for people who are doing social justice work, eviction prevention, etc. Here, they're able to build a consistent residual income that comes in as long as those monthly donors are continuing to donate. They could stop advocating. They could stop asking their customers, got them bagels. Joe could just say, you know what? I'm done with the bagel business. I'm going to go start something new. I'm going to teach people how to create their own food trucks or whatever he wants to do. He loves teaching people how to cook. But that money would still continue to come in. And right now, I can't think of a single small business that would not enjoy an additional $3,000 to $4,000 a month coming in, especially during a time where customers are scarce. Customers are scarce, but people understand the need for social justice, and they understand the need for immediate relief funds and low barrier resources. Movement Fund is meeting that need. After the same period, 12 months, Movement Fund could be bringing in $200,000 a month. And this is the kind of revenue that would allow us to stand up a whole social justice organization, a whole initiative focused on eviction prevention, focused on, advocacy, decriminalization of poverty, you name it. And we could completely fail and mess everything up and be in a position to do better the next month. This kind of safety net, this kind of resource does not exist for people of color in this city, let alone this state. We, for the majority of this state, and I would even venture to say this nation, we are not in control of the dollars that support the innovative solutions that we know we need to create for our issues. And Movement Fund is a solution to that, but it's not saying, hey, can you please give us the power to create for ourselves and do for ourselves? Can you do this at your expense? What this is saying is, no, how about we generate some revenue together in partnership? Instead of me asking DMI or any of our board members for a one-time $5,000 or $25,000 sponsorship that we might not be able to count on year after year, I can come to those businesses, some of whom are struggling right now, and say, how about we make an additional $25,000 a month together? And then Movement Fund can have some consistent revenue to be able to focus on and support those who go without support too often, the Sonies, the grassroots folks. It is by far, of course, I'm clearly biased, but to me, and to most of the people we talk to, it's solving so many problems in one. And it's kind of bringing this nexus of impact and empowerment into the forefront and making it a reality beyond the jargon. We love to talk about empowerment. We love to talk about impact. This is a way to not only put our dollars where our mouths are, but also create an opportunity for people who are struggling in more ways than one. So more importantly, we're able to impact Sonia. Sonia is able to, without having to do her business plan, get her board together, get her 501c3 together, she can just keep doing what she's doing pay her rent and help other people pay their rents as well. The YGBs of the world can continue to march and protest and guide that energy in a constructive way, and also advocate without being worried about being able to pay for and support staff. So many of us need this right now, and I feel like it is our opportunity. We are, this tragedy and this circumstance is our opportunity. When tragedy strikes, that's when innovation tends to happen. And here we're seeing something that can answer that call. So we were raising some money to pay for staffing. We're past that now. People are loving this so much. They're like, how do we do it? So we're hiring a director and a few other staff, and it's great. But everyone who can, you're probably going to get an invite from me or someone else to contribute $5 a month, or whatever you can, and to share. You can share and earn from that, or not. But the percentage that you earn is optional. So our friends at UW Health, Old National Bank, Eat Street. Everybody loves Eat Street. Short Stack Eatery. Gotta love those pancakes. These are businesses that they don't want to earn a percentage. They don't want their kickback, and that's totally optional. It's also up to you as a donor to decide where you want to put your dollars. It could go to meeting awareness, building needs. You could say, listen, I just can't support the protest. I love it. I love that it happens. I can't put dollars there. My employer won't like it, whatever the case is. But we want to make it okay for these things to happen. We want to make it okay to earn money for supporting social good. We want to make it okay for us to support advocacy and action and direct actions. And Movement Fund is bridging the gap to that. DMI is an early adopter. I'm not sure where I'm at with time, but I appreciate y'all.
We're getting down there, but I think, there's going to be people with some questions for sure, and I want to make sure that we have a few minutes left for, point to point. If somebody's got a question or a thought about what Eric's talking about, let's take a few minutes and have some Q&A. Anyone?
I'll start. Why does barriers matter? You kept bringing up low barrier and no barrier financing. Why is that important within the Movement Fund?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Jason. This is coming from our observation of the funding world. The barriers, usually the more requirements and steps that you have to take to get to a result, the less people you see reaching that result. So when you have a funding opportunity, here are the dollars at the end of the finish line. And to get there, you have to jump through these various hoops. There's only going to be one winner or a few winners. But we know that the people that began their journey there, they're doing great work, right? We want to see them be successful as well. So if we can remove the barriers and remove that process, remove some of those steps, make it easier on the people who are coming into the door and saying, hey, I want to make the world a better place too. Let's make it easier for those people and increase the access to those funds. Also, organizations that aren't traditionally organized tend to be relied on for a lot of this work, a lot of social good work, a lot of environment work. Volunteers are the lifeblood of many nonprofit organizations, and these social change agents, these community leaders that we all know and love, a lot of them aren't really organized as traditional nonprofits. And so the good work that they're doing has a limit to how much it can be supported. And that limit is a barrier that we can remove if we change how we're funding them.
Yeah, they don't have the teams to go after the money.
Right.
They can't stop doing what they're doing to go focus on a grant opportunity.
Right on.
So is the Movement Fund, is it a national organization, Eric? Is it local? Is it headquartered here?
It is headquartered here. I'll say that it is local. But if somebody wanted to donate from Timbuktu, they could. And if someone wrote, apply for some funds from another state, they could do that as well. It just so happens that most of my friends are here on this call and in Madison. So, you know, this is where most of our energy is.
So this is where it's starting anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Eric, sometimes we hear about people that need resources and people that need assistance or help don't know where to go to get it. How do you connect to individuals who are in need in order for them to understand what resources, what assistance, what information is available at their fingertips? How is Movement Fund connecting with those in need or identifying individuals who have need?
Yeah, so this is a beautiful question. And when we look at how larger organizations connect to those same individuals that you're mentioning, the method has been to use a liaison approach, right? So who knows those people? I know. Let's talk to Sabrina Madison, Eric Upchurch, Brandy Grayson, Ruben Anthony, you know, you name it. And we know that they know them, so we're going to connect with them to reach them. And that's a beautiful approach. When we did, when I consulted and supported the Task Force on Government Structure, who knows the people that typically aren't participating in the government process? We identified those people and we paid them to go out and get their community and bring the decision-making table to their people. So, and I don't know every Black person in Madison. I got a group of people that know me and I know them. And, you know, some other people from another neighborhood, the same for them. So what we realized with Movement Fund is that people are automatically attracted to the resources, to opportunities that are going to serve them. And with building off of the liaison approach, we are empowering this you up here at the top to be that advocate. So the people who we would say, hey, you know, you have friends, right? They need help, right? Why don't you bring them into the door? That's this you person at the top. Only now we're able to track it in a way that we can empirically say, hey, Sabrina Madison, or hey, Eric Upchurch, it looks like you referred 10 people who applied for grants and you referred 50 people who started a monthly donation. How can we support you in doing that more? So it's kind of a give and take where we're empowering the people who are already connected and paying them to make those connections, and then following up with them on the back end and saying, hey, this is what we see happening. What kind of challenges are you seeing, and how can we remove those for you? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.